Ajay Taimba from Harlem Liberation School. And there's really a lot to say. I'm going to try to be concise. Family, I got involved in the Black Liberation Movement when I was about 13 years old. I had been raised in my home by my mother and father. My mother was very big on ethics and morality and um, going to school and doing well in terms of education and being learned. And my father was big on, we might say, African-centered knowledge, knowledge of self, knowledge of culture, fighting for black people and things of this nature. So at a very early age, he was telling me bedtime stories of Nat Turner and Harriet Tubman and things of this nature, of our resistance in Africa, our resistance here in the States during the period of our enslavement. Very big on Malcolm X, because as a young man living in Harlem, he had been able to go to several speeches by Brother Malcolm and heard him and saw him live. And he would recall some of the stories to me. He was very much moved and in great admiration of Brother Malcolm. He would share this with me when I was young. And at about the age of 12, I want to say, I read Brother Malcolm's book, Malcolm X Speaks. Well, actually, it wasn't Malcolm X's book. He didn't compile it. It was a compilation of various speeches that Brother Malcolm had made. But the text, the transcription of his different speeches. And I was just, when I read that book, I read it in that weekend when I was grounded by my mother. I don't remember what I did, but she grounded me. And I read that book. And I said to myself, I want to be like this man somehow, some way. So I've been involved in this for a pretty long time before high school. And I'm now 56 years old. Of course, it went from me reading a lot because I was a bibliophile, still a bibliophile. And I was an autodidactic at that point. I was kind of self-taught. Once I got into high school and started going to Liberation Bookstore, Sister Una Mozak, going up 125th building with the black book vendors on 125th, going to Liberation Books, First World Alliance, and then ultimately to Syracuse University and then Cornell and then UMass, and getting involved with African American Studies Department, getting involved with Africana Studies and Research Center and all these things. Then I became a more formally trained, you may say, scholar in Africana Studies and involved in various organizations, some in college and some in the community and some that I won't mention. But the point here is I've got skin in the game, fam. I'm not just somebody that's upset and disgruntled and complaining about the white man's country and his system. I got skin in the game. I fought. I have suffered as a result of my political stances. I have suffered financially. I've suffered in terms of health. I've suffered in every way you could imagine, and I would take none of it back. But I'd like us to really get this point. As a younger man, I got involved with black nationalism because I felt it was the truth and the light and the way. Kind of like Christians say, you can't go to the Father but to go through Jesus. I felt you can't go through to liberation but to go through black nationalism. That's what my studies and my jegnas and teachers had pretty much instilled in me at the time as a young man. And for the most part, I still feel that way. I think nationalism has to expand and mature in some ways, and it has to adapt in some ways, stretch itself. But I still basically believe my foundation is black nationalism. Now, also, I believe Pan-Africanism is key. And I'm still growing, I'm still reading, I'm still studying, I'm rereading old books and reading new books and having serious discussions with elders and peers who are also activists and community organizers and educators. And something that concerns me, because I remember growing up in the movement and look at myself now, and I remember being very rigid. You couldn't tell me too much about nationalism. You couldn't have a critique of Malcolm or Garvey. I wasn't going to let it go. In my mind, they were infallible. They were perfect. Perfect. You couldn't even fix your mouth to say nothing about them. Well, I'm older now, obviously, and now I realize that just like we're kids and we look at our parents, when we're little kids, we see our parents as being infallible. We see our parents as being above reproach, perfect. We idolize them in many cases. Um, and then as we get older and a little more worldly and more knowledgeable, we realize no, our parents are not perfect. No, our parents may have taught some things, they may have meant well, but some of what they may have taught may not have been exactly right and exact, right? Or we might realize our parents may be engaged in activities or habits that we may not personally support, be that drinking liquor, smoking, whatever, using drugs, whatever they did, gambling. Uh, and so in our mature state, we can now look it up, and then we may have resentment. And then as we get even older and more mature, we realize, nah, we're not going to hold that against our mother and fathers. They did the best they could with what they had and knew. And hopefully we get to a point, if they were in violation or if they let us down, disappointed us in some way, if we feel they misled us in some way, we have the grace to forgive. And we say, well, our parents, we know, meant well. And maybe in some respects they fell short because if they were taught things that weren't true, or because they were juggling several responsibilities, and they're human, right? Okay. If you can appreciate what I just said about how we first idealize our parents and then we come to have a more realistic understanding of our parents and appreciation for them, then you'll understand that we do the same thing politically. And this is very dangerous. So this is to say, um, if you take somebody like Brother Malcolm, for example, and we idolize him, we put him on this plate, he was perfect, and we was, no, he wasn't perfect. And it's actually, we rob people of humanity when we try to make him perfect. What makes Malcolm special is precisely that he was human, prone to all the foibles and mistakes and immaturities and bad decisions that any other human being makes. And what makes him special is that he was able to rise above those things. He was able to transform himself, right? That's what makes him special. Not that he was superhuman, but that he was human, and he was able to transform himself. And he was an example, Brother Malcolm, this is, of what we could all be and what we could all achieve if we commit, if we're serious, if we move with great intensity and urgency. Sometimes I believe that when we get into movements and we subscribe to this ideology or that ideology, or we follow this very important black leader or that one, that somewhere along the way we forget why we came. When I was 12, I said I want to be like Malcolm. And guess what? I still want to be like Malcolm. I'm nowhere near him. And I still aspire in various ways of my life to be like him. His level of transparency, his intensity, his ability to transform himself, to turn that corner and never look back, like Lot's wife did. His voracious consumption of literature and news, and his ability to take complex political ideas and explain them concisely and precisely. I still admire that man and look up to him and still seek to be like him. But I also know that as a kid, I said I want to be like him, still do. But really what I wanted was to be free. And I wanted black people to be free and liberated. So as a 12-year-old, I'm reading Malcolm X Speaks and listening to my dad talk about him and Malcolm, watching him in Harlem at these rallies and being transfixed by him, right? And so I idealized Malcolm and I wanted to be like him. But as I became more mature and older and I got involved in movements and I'm leading organizations and I'm getting death threats and people trying to kick me out of college and all these, and I'm going for job interviews and they say, you was that guy at Syracuse University causing all that trouble, getting denied jobs, all types of stuff. Now I'm maturing in the movement, so I still look up to Malcolm. But now it's not about making him this perfect person. It's about looking at what he represented as a liberation movement person, as a man trying to juggle family and finances and, his place in the movement, trying to have integrity and trying to keep it real with the people, constantly trying to learn and advance his own thinking, right? His own understanding of what liberation meant and what it would take. That's how I was feeling as I'm getting older. And so now for me at 56, it's no longer about I want to be just like this great leader or that great leader. It's like I want to make my contribution to the Black liberation movement. And I know that I'm just a little speck of sand in this whole beach of Black people and African people. I'm just one little speck. There's millions and billions of us, many of whom are making very important contributions to this movement. I'm under no assumption that I'm some special or unique, or hey, I'm another brother trying to add what I can add, taking the gifts I believe God gave and using them for myself and for the people. But I've come to believe I'm not in this movement to represent Black nationalism. Now let me qualify that. I'm nationalist for sure, but my goal is not to push Black nationalism. My goal is not to be like Malcolm. My ultimate objective is not to just represent the ideas of this or that leader or this or that ideology, family. My objective, and I'm clear, is to be free and liberated and to participate in a viable movement to help to free and liberate our people. That's the ultimate objective. Now, how we define this liberation, what it looks like to us, may vary because we're different people from different upbringings, different parts of the world or the United States. So yeah, we're going to have different renditions or iterations of what freedom or liberation looks like. But my goal, my objective is very clear. I want us to be liberated. I want us to be self-determined. I want us to operate as active agents of our own liberation, not as puppets of some other person. And it could be white, Latino, Black, any person. I don't want to be a puppet of anybody, not just white people, anybody. We have to be free, upright, and discerning people on this earth. And we have the right to exert leadership over our own lives, land of our own, right? Customs of our own, special days and heroes and sheroes of our own, as Honorable Marcus Garvey said, and as Malcolm echoed. But at the end of the day, I want to be free and liberated. That's the goal. Some of us, I think, sometimes innocently forget what the real objective is. And we out here, uh, we want to represent this leader or this ideology, and that's cool, family. But remember, the problem with that is self-evident in what just happened. Let me explain. We just had a national election in the United States. We had two front runners, Republican, one Democrat, Kamala Harris, and we had Donald Trump. Now, we can make the argument that it's the white man's political system, which is correct. It's the white man's country, which is correct in many ways, and that we can't trust it, and that it gives the illusion of inclusion, and elections give the illusion of being that we're participating in this democratic republic, and it's the illusion that we have real choice, and there's truth to that. But here's the rub: we are colonized in this country, and we can't escape that. Most of the things we need are produced and distributed by the people that are our opposition, right? We have to come to terms with that. And until we end that relationship, that will never change. So this is to say that our vehicles are made by them, our clothing, most of which is made by them, our food, in many cases may not be all grown by them, but it's certainly distributed by them. And so our jobs, right? Our credentials, if you're a teacher or you're a plumber or whatever you do, you're certified by them. They determine the criteria for these things. So we can't escape that reality, right? We are in a colonized relationship with white folk in the United States, right? So that means to some degree our lives and the things that we want and value are inextricably linked to them. That's a tough predicament to be in. Um, so that means that some of their institutions we're going to graduate from, and some of their ideologies we're going to study and learn from. Yes, it's inevitable. But it's very important that we don't get twisted about the objective. My objective is not to be out here um, representing this person or this ideology or this. My goal is to be free. Goal is to be free. Harriet Tubman wasn't too concerned about what she called herself ideologically. She knew that God did not put her or her kith and kin on this earth to be servants for no white folk. She believed that, right? And you may criticize her for being Christian, but whatever. That's her that was her religious center. And that religious center taught her we weren't put here to be slaves. We were put here to be free. That we were God's people. And so she acted on that. Now, she could have called herself a bunch of different ideologies. She could have followed a particular leader of that. But at the end of the day, she was crossing rivers, organizing black people, new Africans, and charting our way to the so-called free states. That's what she was doing, right? Okay. She didn't allow an ideology, a religious thing, or any type of beef like that to get in the way of what she was doing. Now, anybody that's talking to me right now knows I'm doing a live and I can't talk to them right now. Can't talk to you right now. Bye. Can't talk to you right now. See you later. Sorry, family. It's the little kids. Anyway, so we don't let the ideology get in the way of the mission. And what I'm saying, family, if we let our ideologies get in the way in this election, we getting caught up in it's the white man's this and it's the white man's that, right? We getting caught up in, oh, there's no difference between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, and there's several clear differences. And because we got caught up in the ideology piece, we were unable to have the nuanced thinking to say, no, Democrats and Republicans are very similar. But Donald Trump's approach, sensibilities, his politics, his intentions, that Project 2025 is radically different from what Kamala Harris was trying to roll out. Completely different. And we weren't able to see that nuance because we were holding so tight to our ideology and the anti-white position, right? And the anti-white system position that we were unable to see. No, there's difference between these two. And if we don't vote, if we completely abstain, we're helping support a person getting in office that is absolutely trying to return this country back to the times of pre-Civil War, family. Straight like that. We were unable to catch it because we got so caught up in, well, what's the nationalist position? What's the Pan-Africanist position? Family. We have to, no matter what a position we take, we got to remember the objective is, if we're in America, we're going to be in a compromised situation because we're colonized. So we fight to decolonize ourselves. We fight to create liberated zones and liberated spaces in our minds and in our families. We fight to try to manage our resources and grow them as best we can. We fight to be healthy and not die young prematurely, right? We fight to keep our African minds and keep sense and keep certain cultural values, but we know that that's a fight because we're in a colony. We don't get too caught up. We remember the objective is we want to live. We want to live long, like the Vulcans say in Star Trek. Live long and prosper. We want to live and we want to live abundantly. We want to live in peace. And we want to live being able, for our kids to be able to live the lives that they dream of living, that they work towards living, without artificial barriers put in their way like race and class and gender and age. But because we were unable to say, yeah, I'm nationalist, I'm Pan-Africanist, but I understand the voting thing is a gimmick, and I understand it's not completely right and exact, and I understand that. But in this case, we need to take a position here, because to have her in office would be a whole hell of a lot more comfortable and convenient than having him in office. I don't know if you read any of that Project 2025 thing, a 180-day playbook for his first 180 days in office, and how he plans to take all the power from the other two branches of government and put it all in the executive branch. I don't know if you read the document or if you just went on what you heard other people say, but I read the document from cover to cover, and I read summaries, and a Harlem Liberation School has done at least 3 different broadcasts spelling out what it was about. And their family, they're going to make it very hard for you to get medication if you're an elder and you're getting medication, very hard to afford it. If you're on social services, they're going to make it very hard to keep it and very hard to get it. Family, it's if you're in school, they're getting rid of the Department of Education. I mean, it's ridiculous. Firing hundreds of thousands of people from government jobs, and they're going to base your being hired on, are you loyal to the politics of the president? And some of us dropped the ball on this. We said, oh man, white people always been racist. White presidents always been racist. Yeah, but see, they said this is not new. No, this is new. Because this president has the Supreme Court in his pocket. The Supreme Court said he's immune from criminal. I mean, it's ridiculous. He has the Senate in his pocket, is majority Republican. And I believe he has the House in his pocket. This means that this is unprecedented. This is a historical moment unlike any other. This president, who's authoritarian, a dictator, who believes he has all the power to do whatever he wants, right? And to reward his cronies and his minions and to punish those who disagree with him, has control of the Supreme Court and the legislative branch, the Congress family. This means for the first time he has control of everything, and therefore he has the power, potentially, to roll out his very draconian plan, the Project 2025. And because we got caught up in our ideologies, man, and we just wanted an anti-white thing, we didn't understand there's nuance to that. Just like all white people ain't the same. Just like all black people ain't the same. All black people don't have the same politics. All Jews ain't the same, so-called Jews who are white. Some of them are active Jews, some of them are Orthodox Jews. Huh? Some of them see themselves as more ethnic Jews, but not religious Jews. In other words, all one people are not the same. They're not a monolith. There's variation in nuance. Some people who are white who call themselves Jews reject the synagogue, reject the teaching of the Torah. Some are completely with it. Some use it for their convenience. Some black people are Christians, some are Muslims, some are Buddhists, some are agnostics, some are atheists. We have to get away from this simplistic interpretation of our people and other people. We have to see the world not as we want it to be, but as it is. And we have to therefore develop the maturity to be able to engage the world and navigate this world based on reality and bend the world to our will. But we can't bend the world to our will if we don't even see it clearly. We've oversimplified it, and we've allowed our politics and ideologies to do that. This was a case where we were supposed to say, as Pan-Africans, nationalists, black socialists, whoever, we were supposed to say, listen, we're going to all vote for this sister. Not so she can be the first black woman in office. I don't care about that per se. But because we know that her politics and her history, if you look at her history, from going to Howard and the stuff she was doing at Howard University and her intentions and some of the reforms she made as a prosecutor, right? You would know that she is a person you'd want to lead the country over Donald Trump, who's a clear racist, misogynist, patriarch, sexist, And we can go on. Xenophobe. He hates immigrants. Although he's a descendant of immigrants who came to this country, right? You don't want him. So we would have took the tactical position. When you don't matter if you love Kamala, if you agree with all her politics, or if she's perfect. None of these candidates is perfect. You not perfect. None of you watching this is perfect. That wasn't the point. The point was to say, no matter what our politics is, if we want black people to be in the best position, relatively speaking, she was the one we should have voted in. And we should have put all our energy in making sure she got in office. And making sure he didn't get in office. And then we're supposed to put fire under her behind, have a national black agenda, have organization, a national black political party that's pushing our issues and forcing her to take note of our issues. Lobbying groups, constantly lobbying the Congress to support our issues. And things of this nature. And of course, community organizing and direct action and radical scholarship and all these other things that we've historically done. But instead we dropped the ball. We said, oh man, I'm not voting. And she hating on the black men and didn't do a lick of research. We went on third and fourth party information. People don't know what they're talking about. We didn't do the research to say, well, yeah, she put black men in jail because she's a prosecutor, family. What do you think prosecutors do? Prosecutors take the people that the police bring to them as having committed crimes and attempt to prosecute them and have them sentenced and punished for the crimes they committed. Right? So that's like saying that a contractor, you know what that contractor did? That mofo went and built houses. Yeah, that's what they do. That's not out of normalcy. That's not out of what a prosecutor does. They're going to send people to jail. But if you would have studied the record, you would have seen that she created programs to try to help the non-violent offenders get out of, not stay as long in jail. And things of that nature, have education and different amenities and be able to get out of jail. We got stuck on ideology. We did this thing, they're all the same, and they're not all the same. All politicians are not the same. Some politicians actually want to help their constituents. Some are in it for a paycheck and to be in the media and to get notoriety and power and benefits, but they're not all the same, family. As a matter of fact, all Republicans are not inherently racist. Do you know that Donald Trump, last time when he claimed that the election was rigged, I forget the state this guy was in. This guy was like the head of this voting something. And so Donald Trump calls him like, man, I need 140,000 votes. Find me 140,000 votes. So he's basically asking this white dude, Republican, who's a Republican all his life, to cheat, to do something illegal and fabricate votes so that he could claim the election. And the white boy told him, no, sir, I can't do that. I'm not doing that. I love the Republican Party and whatever, but I'm not going to go against the Constitution. I'm not going to do something illegal. Whoever voted, I'm going to report that I'm not doing anything illegal. I'm trying to tell you, you have to get your mind out of this idea that all people are the same. You know in your own life that's not the way things work. There's black people who are Uncle Raucous, and you know it. Some may be in your family, some in your friendship circle, some in your neighborhood or you grew up with. They take the most anti-black positions, but they black as midnight. And they don't love black people, so stop it with the, if you're this, you're that, if you're that, you're this. That is not correct. And because we were unable to get out of that rigid thinking, we dropped the ball with this. And now we put a man in power who aims to be an absolute dictator. And now, where we could have prevented this catastrophe, now the catastrophe is going to unfold, and it's much harder to fight against something than it is to prevent it from the outset. So family, please don't get so caught up in your race, your gender, your this, your ideology, the hero, the leader you like, that you forget the objective is liberation. The objective is liberation. And if you forget that, you will find yourself thinking you're making a revolutionary move when really what you're doing is acting like a reactionary. You're actually doing something that's counter. You're participating in a counter revolutionary posture and position. And I hope you think about this. You can get mad at me. It's okay. You won't be the first or last. But I hope you think about what I said. We're getting our antennas crossed. We're forgetting why we're here. We're forgetting why we're here. It's like when you go to the kitchen to get the fork and you get there and you say, damn, why did I get here? Why did I come here? I forgot. We doing this politically. We didn't get here to be like nationalism, pan-Africanism, this one, this leader. We got here to be free. And we choose nationalism or pan-Africanism or socialism or Christianity or whatever you choose as the vehicle to get you there. But you letting the vehicle outweigh the destination. And that, family, makes no sense. I hope that I'm imploring you just to hear what I'm saying and hear the spirit in which I'm saying it. Because we dropped the ball in a major way with this election. We let an immature view of politics get in the way. And we let an absolute demon into office uh, um, who is right up there with the likes of some of the worst dictators in history. He just didn't have the opportunity to unveil it, but now he does because he has control of all three branches of government. Well, family, that's all I had to say. Peace and Black Power. Mm. Mm.